So early on, I saw to live life on my own terms and no longer be directed by society. I mean, I completely created a life outside of what was normal. Welcome to The Way of the Muse, a podcast for women who want to create richness in every area of their lives, from business and career to lifestyle, relationships, family, purpose, and fulfillment. I'm Gigi Sage.
And I'm McKenna Sage. We're a mother-daughter coaching team, and combined, we've spent over 4 decades helping people create their best and most fully expressed lives. If you're ready to step into your bigger dreams with ease, fun, and flow, you're in the right place. Let's get into the episode.
Hello, everyone. I'm Gigi Sage, co-host of the Way of the Muse podcast, along with my daughter, McKenna Sage. Today, I'm going to share with you a bit of my origin story. My personal transformation began, and my journey as a coach began over 37 years ago. So I could easily fill a couple of books with my story, as you can imagine. But today I want to focus on a few parts that I think are the most relevant for you, the listener. And overall, the theme of our Way of the Muse podcast. So if you haven't listened to the first episode, we talk more about that in that episode. So go back and make sure you listen. First of all, I want to do a disclaimer. I always like to do this because when I talk, I'm going to speak about men and women in binary terms. And I will also make generalizations that are based primarily on my observations of tens of thousands of people over many decades. And I do understand that there are many shades of gray. So there are non-binary gender identifications, of course, same-sex relationships, and also just unique qualities to each individual and relationship dynamic. And that being said, with my experience, most relationships I've seen have a masculine and feminine pole. So if you don't identify when I talk about using the words men and women, or if you happen to be in a same-sex relationship, what I want you to do is feel free to substitute the words masculine and feminine instead. Okay, so where did all this get started? Let's begin way back. The year was 1985. I was a single mom of 2, just moved back to Houston, Texas, had gotten a job in the telecommunications field. And honestly, at that point in my life, I was kind of looking for, there's got to be something more. I felt like all the lifestyles, I had been married already, and the different things I saw in my life and the way people I knew lived, I was longing for something. I was looking for something. So it just so happens when I started to work for this company, there was this special woman working there. And right away, I started talking with her, and she was so different than anyone else. When she talked about living her passion. She shared with me a story that she was actually leaving the company in about 3 months, and she was going to go to LA, and she was living her passion and going to be an actress. Now you have to understand, this is 1985, and I had no idea what she meant by living your passion, but the more she talked about it and how excited she was, I was like, wow, I've never even thought about what would I like to do? Up until that point, I had just been kind of like on autopilot. The other thing that she shared with me is that she had taken a seminar and actually been working with this seminar company, and they came to Houston frequently, and she would love it if I would join her in the seminar because she said, that is where she learned about living her passion. So I was like, oh, okay. I didn't really know anything about seminars back at that, at that point also. There weren't a lot of seminars happening. And so I was super curious and also a little hesitant. When it finally came around and the leader came to town and a seminar was organized in Houston, I tried to back out, but she said, nope, you made a commitment. And this is the first time anyone ever said that to me before. And so I ended up showing up. And there's a much longer story to that, but I keep that brief today and basically share with you that my experience in the seminar was, I say it sounds a little bit like silly, but it was profound. I went into that seminar, and what happened is people sat up in front of the room, and the trainer would ask these questions like, what do you love doing? have you ever had a dream? And then people in the audience would sit out and they would give feedback anytime they saw you light up. So this was the beginning of what you hear everywhere now is what lights you up. This particular trainer had actually developed this term. And so we did this in the seminar. And first of all, when I sat up in front of the room and people asked me, and this amazing curiosity of the people watching and then giving me feedback was so exciting because I'd never taken the time to stop and really think about what did I want. I was pregnant and married at 18. Like I said, I had 2 daughters at this time, and I was 27 years old, and I was just on autopilot. And so getting up there, having people so curious about me, sharing what was on my heart, it was such an amazing experience. And the other experience is when I sat out in the audience and I watched other people and we asked them, what do you want? What do you love doing? And you would watch them light up. And you'd watch also when they said the thing that was the truth and the closest to their hearts, the whole room would change. You would feel it. You would sense it. And I was mesmerized. When I left that seminar, I was so alive and so curious, and I had this feeling in the class, I would love to do this. I would love to work with people this way. And so something sparked in me, and I started to follow my curiosity and aliveness. I started assisting in these workshops, helping out with them, and over the years then I had the mentor became the man who led them became my mentor, and we worked together for many years. And so in this, I started to develop my work. And that's a long story, right? I followed my passion, and people thought it was crazy, if you can imagine, because I was talking about living your passion. I tried to talk everyone I knew into coming to the seminars. My parents came, all my friends, because I wanted to share this new thing that I had found. So as we developed and grew, because we started to grow together, and we developed a 4-year training program early in the late late in the 1980s, we developed this 4-year certification program for coaches, if you can believe that. We called them coaches and trainers back then. And so people would come for 1 month, and it was for 4 years. They'd immerse themselves in 30-day trainings, and they would learn the skills of training and coaching with us. And we would do these, they would learn sales, they would learn, how to perform so they could get up and have stage presence. And we had all kinds of doctors, lawyers, we had people who were curious about being coaches. All of those people came to us. And so this was a very exciting time for me. I also read everything I could. I listened to things. I went to seminars. And through all of these experiences, I started to develop my own work. In the beginning stages, I think my first seminar I ever did was in Maui, because I lived in Maui for 6 years. 2 of my daughters are born there, McKenna and Mariah. And I did my first seminar in Maui. It was called How to Train Your Man, if you can believe that. And I think I had like 5 women, something like that. And the truth is, I had this fascination about communication, and especially the communication between men and women. And so in my mentorship, we kind of played around and used the different things that my mentor had been using, and then also started to develop our work together. And so he had told me at one point, you need to go out there and just get in a training room, put together a workshop, and we called it How to Train Your Man, teach women how to communicate with men in such a way where it's collaborative instead of like the war of the sexes, let's go to more the dance of the sexes. So I had little bits that I knew or learned, but I just got in there and saw, what did women want? And when I stood in my first workshop, I have to tell you, I was so scared, and I felt like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this, right? But also seeing the challenges they were going through. And this helped me rise above my fears and go in service to the bigger purpose for myself. And so this was a very exciting time, as you can imagine. I would start teaching these seminars. I had the opportunity early on to actually teach these in Europe. And really for the next, I would say 17 years, I did workshops, a lot of different topics, what to do with your rest of your life. I did the How to Train Your Man, which eventually became Power Connections, and a lot of different seminars over my years. And my work developed by being in the training room. And when I would get in there and work with people, especially with the women, I saw their pain, like in relationship, and their pain in communicating with men. So I started to develop skills, and then also started to see the breakdowns and help the women see those themselves and work through those. So my passions from the very beginning, like I said, was this communication between men and women. And my personal mission is to transform conflict into harmony in business, relationships, and families, creating a ripple effect of prosperity and peace on the planet. I love, love, love helping people create harmony in their communication. And through my years of working, that has gone into people's families, into their relationships, into their businesses. So often I've had clients where I work with them in all of those areas of their lives. They hire me from one area, and then we end up working in many different areas. So a lot of my work also has been with particular clients over many, many, many years. As I said, I got the opportunity to work in Europe early on, and much of my work was there. And one time I was leading a class. This is when it became Power Connections in, I think it was Cologne, Germany. And a woman was in it. And after the workshop, she came up to me and she said, have you ever written a book? And I said, I've been writing a book for the last 15 years or something, but I haven't actually gotten it into print yet. And she said, well, listen, I would love to write a book with you. So she brought me a bunch of books the next morning, Mars and Venus, and a lot of the very beginning books back at that time, because this was in 2000, I think around 2000. And so I said, listen, you can fly to New York. I was living in New York at the time, and we could do a shorter book of what I'm writing. So she flew to New York. We made an outline. She said, can I go see if I can get a book deal? I was like, absolutely. So she went back to Europe, and she ended up, I think, getting 3 different offers. And so we ended up signing in Germany to do a book. And then that book eventually got published in 7 countries in Europe. And it was basically practical communication skills, some of which are very counterintuitive, and it's what I still teach all the time. And one of those skills is winding. And we will talk more about that in the podcast. It's a very high level communication skill, but it is this dance of being able to, in conflict, not come up against each other, but find a way to kind of wind through the situation and really get both people what they want. So what McKenna saw later as she started working with me, because we started about 5 years ago, our business together, she started to see that this winding was not just a communication skill, but it's really a way of listening and responding to life. And so often when we work with women in our masterminds or in our other classes, we teach them this communication tool so they can use this as a way of life, which is what she says is one of the biggest things I've taught her. And it's a big part of what we do in the Way of the Muse, because we, as McKenna shared her story, she really, really went into a lot of pressure and really thought she had to work hard. And so this winding tool has really been the opportunity for her to take a whole different approach to business and to the way she really takes and manages all of her life. So to share with you a little bit also just about the lifestyle in my family, early on I began designing my life very differently. So like I said, I had the opportunity in an early part of my career to go into Germany, to work in the Netherlands, to work in Switzerland. And that was very exciting, as you can imagine. And so early on, I had to see how could I develop and grow my life in a different way than most people were doing it, because I eventually had 5 kids. And so if I wanted to travel like this, then I had to design my life differently. And the same thing is, I looked to see where was my aliveness, what did I really enjoy doing. And one thing I saw is I love to travel. I love to travel with my family. And so I was running an international coaching and training business. And so early on, I decided I would continue to travel, and I wanted to bring my children, and I wanted to bring them for extended times. I didn't like flying to Europe, spending a week, and then turning around coming back. I would go and fly for 2 months, spend 2 months in Germany, and then I wanted to bring my children. So early on, I started to homeschool my children. We got a nanny early on, and so that way they could come, they could live with us, they could be immersed in the culture. It was super fun because we were working with people that lived in Germany, so we weren't like tourists, right? We were there, we were immersed in the culture. My kids learned so much. Several of them speak German. And they just had this very different lifestyle. They were playing and speaking with the Germans and then other people from other countries. So early on, I saw to live life on my own terms and no longer be directed by society. I mean, I completely created a life outside of what was normal. And what I had to do there, because this was also an extremely complex situation, is we had to set up systems for our life that allowed us to do this. So we had a nanny, and we had to go where our clients were, and we allowed, like I said, our children to learn from these experiences. So they would even be in the seminar rooms early on. Also through the years, Brianna, my daughter, loved to perform and sing, and we did a lot of performing and singing. And so at one point we created a family band, and this is where our kids learned music. And this is also where Brianna got the opportunity to really follow her aliveness and passion, because we created this band and we sang together as a family band. And we did this, we put on shows in Munich, we did shows in Austin, Texas. And so through this was how I had quality time with my children, because we lived very fast-paced, exciting life. So always we were looking to see what would be something that we all love doing in a way that we could spend our time there. The other thing is, through doing the band, the kids also learned discipline. You know, we had to rehearse, we had to put on shows, and even at this time, my youngest daughter, I think she was 3 or 4, she was in the band, and we have old videos. It's so cute of us all singing, you know, It's My Party by Leslie Gore, and she has her little pacifier in her mouth. So we always did these activities or things that were fun, exciting, and that created this connection in our family. And then we would always include our clients in that. This would give the clients like a role model of what they could do with their families, to find out what was the system or the way of play with their families. Now, as you can imagine, traveling, you know, at that point it was with 4 children and then 5 children, leading seminars all over the world. There was a lot of complexity to all this. So we set up systems too, to where my children also had responsibility. You know, they were part of the dynamic and system. They would help set up the workshops and our travels. Everybody had a job that they did, and everybody helped plan. And then when we were in the other places, everybody helped assist. And so it was a very fun thing for the kids. Early on, they felt like part of the system. It wasn't us just telling them what to do. They got to contribute. It was funny because we ended up that our nanny started doing kids camp. So we would be in New York, and we'd have a lot of Germans or Americans come. And since they were coming for 30 days, often they would want to bring their kids. And so maybe this was in the summer months. And so our nanny would develop a kids camp. And the kids camp all the kids too would have responsibilities, and then they would have activities. They all got to be leaders. We would have the families actually do shows together where the kids and the parents got together. They performed. So we integrated all the different things of what we love doing into our life and into our family and into our business. And that's basically how I've grown my life, and it's what I taught my children to do. So following our aliveness and anything that I had an interest in, I would put it on a list, and then at some point I would integrate that into my next evolution in my business. So early on also, because I traveled and because I love to travel, I had a workshop that I developed called Arts of a Woman. And so I started leading retreats early in my career. And I would always choose retreats to have women come and experience these different experiences of cultures. So many were like, I did the Arts of a Japanese Woman. And in that, I brought in like special guests. We did Ikebana. We did the Japanese tea ceremony, which I love. So I would teach women in these seminars how to connect more with their feminine side, how to let go, unwind. And around them, I had lots of different themes. I did one in Cape Town in South Africa. I brought in an African dance teacher. This was one on pleasure and women tapping in more to their sensuality. And so through the years, I've done these all over the world. And for me, I always tapped into what was I curious about and how could I share that with the women that I was working with. So again, this was this natural evolution of what I love doing, and then I would implement this and put it into my work. And that's how I've really grown my career, my life, everything. The other thing that happened in my career, and again, in 37 years, you can imagine, I can't go into all of it. I've done a lot of different things. But in the 2000s, I think it was, I started to develop I did develop a method for women on how to communicate with men, both professionally and personally. And that's my book. That's what it was about. And through the book, I got a lot of different opportunities. In the US, I started working in corporations and teaching women how to use skills for advancement. Because what I saw even back in the 80s is women had started to go into business, and through going into business, they were taking on more and more masculine qualities. And they would come to me and they were in so much pain because they'd forgotten how to be a woman. They no longer tapped into their intuition. They just felt more like men. And I started to show women early on that they could take their feminine qualities, they could keep those, and they could be in business with men. And actually, the way they communicated with the men would make the men, that would make the relationship more collaborative and harmonious. So I went into companies like JP Morgan Chase. I worked with about, I think, 100 of the women in the senior VP area. I worked at Duke Energy. I worked with the top 80 executive women. And I changed the dynamic on how they were approaching being in business and being leaders, from acting like men to taking on their feminine qualities and still being extremely professional. So that was a very exciting time. And you can imagine it really made an impact for a lot of women around the world. I also taught this in Germany too. So I would show them how to keep these feminine qualities. And femininity, here's the thing, you hear so much about femininity these days, but the thing about femininity is not one thing. It's not these flowing dresses. I mean, if that's what you really like and it's perfect. Femininity is a quality that a woman naturally has, and it's our beauty and our receptivity. And it's different for everyone. So it's about tapping into what that means to you. What is it for you that when you feel an ease and flow? And a lot of my programs got developed around that. So through these programs, the other thing I would do is we did photo shoots. I did this all over the world, and I would, at that time, even I would take the photos, which was super fun. And again, tap women into this different side of themselves where they started to feel sensual and playful and beautiful. We put on we put on fashion shows. I would do fashion shows. I'd get a store and have them let us use the clothes, and all the women in the seminars then would wear these clothes. We'd set up whole fashion shows. We'd invite people. We even sold tickets to them. So again, I love beauty. I love fashion. And so I developed my work around that. And so everything I did was around, like I said, what brought me alive? What did I enjoy? Because whatever that was normally, especially because I was working with a lot of women around the world, I saw that whatever was a longing in me, normally it was a longing in other women. When I developed we had a training facility in Austin, had 75 acres there, and we would have people come from all over the world. And in my office, I saw I hated sitting in desk. So I bought this beautiful white Chase lounge, and it was looking out the window through the land. And that's where I did my phone calls, and that's where I did and sat and worked on my computer, because that's what I love. I love this way of being relaxed and not sitting at a computer and working. Then there came a point, I had a dark night of the soul. Now, it wasn't all easy and breezy, of course. When I talk about this, I'm sharing the highlights. But as you know, first of all, having this kind of big life had a lot of complexity to it. And I went through many challenges in those early years of growing my business and raising my family. But around the year 2000, I parted ways with the father of my younger children. And around that same time, I walked away from a business that I had actually built for 17 years with my business partner. I walked away from my clients. I walked away from everything. So as you can imagine, that was a very difficult thing to do. I tried to see how to walk away and not destroy everything. It was very difficult, no matter, because my life, my business, my family, everything was connected. When I did this, shortly thereafter, I actually got sick with chronic fatigue. And I think it was, of course, later I saw it had a lot to do with the emotional pain I was going through. But, there was much more to this. I'm not going to go deeply into this, just to touch on. It was a very challenging time for many years. We went through a lot of challenges, and like I said, kind of a dark night of a soul. And this was a very challenging time for me with my kids. I actually had 4 kids at home at that time, and I let go of my nanny, and I ended up taking on my life and went from everything being handled to me handling everything. And I can't even tell you, just that pain, that challenge. But I felt so strongly about it. And on the other side of it, I knew it was absolutely the right thing. And this was also a time where I really got humility, and my knowledge and experience and work with people took a new depth, because before I was kind of on this high and honestly a little arrogant, I have to tell you. And so when I had this time and I had to do everything, I had to really sit back and reflect on what people go through. And so in that, I had a new way of seeing my work and a new way of seeing what people were going through. So this, I always say, made me into I think 10 times better coach and 10 times better trainer, because I went through this experience. And that's always powerful, when we have challenges, and then we can go back and share with other people. And then I got the great opportunity in mentoring McKenna that I work with. McKenna had a strong curiosity about coaching, and she was so interested at an early age. I think she talked about that probably in her origin story, so I'm not going to go deeply into that. But she was at a point in her life, and she at one point wanted to coach, and then she tried it didn't work. And then at one point I just saw the pain she was going through in her copywriting business, and even though she was doing well. And so I stepped in and said, listen, I think I can really support you. So we decided to go into business together, and I decided to mentor her. And during this time, it was very challenging at first, because as you can imagine, we're mother and daughter, and then we were a business partner, and then we were mentor student. And so what we did through the first few years is just a matter of her learning. And I have to say, she's one of the quickest learners I've ever, or one of the quickest people I've ever mentored, that as far as learning. And it was very exciting though too, because we got to work together in this way that we got to grow together. I had to grow, she grew. It was amazing to watch, my daughter be able to learn these skills and learn them so fast, something that took me 37 years. And in the last 5 years, she's learned so much. And then for us to combine our love of helping and working with women to empower women around the world to live these exceptional lives, and to also tap in and build their business from this ease and flow, and to also build incredible relationships if that's what they want, and amazing families. So that's just a few, highlights from my life. And thank you so much for listening. One thing I hope you take away from this story is that we all have countless ups and downs on our journeys. And if you're feeling somehow like, I've made so many mistakes, or I failed, let my story be an inspiration for you, because I've had so many ups and downs. And through that, though, I've continued to take one step in front of the other and keep going. And that's all it takes, is that one step in front of the other and keep going. And a really powerful exercise we often share with our clients is to make a timeline of your life and write down your key experiences that shaped you into who you are today. What were those turning point moments for you? You really want to go in and see what are the times where you had, when I met my mentor was a turning point for me. When I started working in Europe, it was a turning point for me, because in those moments, you often will get clues on things that you love to do, or ways that you want to approach your life. And often these experiences play a role in what you're here to do on this planet, and how you're being called to make a positive difference for others. So thank you so much for listening to my story. I'm excited to continue getting to know you through this podcast and sharing tools and principles that can help you design a life that's truly in alignment for you.
That's our episode for today, but let's not make it the end of our love story. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and think of some women in your life you'd love to share it with. And if you want to learn more about our events and programs, visit wayofthemuse.com. See you next time.